5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Want to say welcome to Courtney Charles here. I never knew TV Fire. What's going on?
Everything is blessed. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I guess you can introduce yourself because this man has so many accolades and he has had so many positions within the business. So I'll let you introduce yourself to the people.
Courtney M. Charles, Vice President of Raptors 905. Um, the way I like to introduce myself is I found my passion. I've been able to develop a skill set, and here we are today trying to continue to make players better on and off the court, and impacting our community through education, through sports, and through business.
From what I understand, you grew up in an Antiguan and Jamaican household, right? And the question I have for you is like, what was more of the dominant culture in the house, if there was?
So it's a very interesting one. The first thing I'll say is I was privileged enough to experience both Antigua and Jamaica as a young man growing up, and naturally I gravitated to Antigua, being quiet, simple, more of how I saw myself. And then I eventually got to experience Jamaica and Jamaicans, and fell in love with the passion and the joy and the excitement. Um, and then studying the two, realizing how similar but yet different they are. With one being a completely really small island, and then the other one being almost known as a world class island in Jamaica, being talented in as many things as they are talented in. So for me, there was a change. I went from more of a soca listening young person to more of a reggae vibe, and a little more dance hall. Um, and it was interesting in the household because my dad is the Antiguan, and he was very quiet, just a hard worker, puts his head down and just gets tasks done. And my mom, being the Jamaican, was more of the rule setter, and more of the organizer, and disciplinarian. So it was different to have that climate, but it was what we needed. We needed a strong leader, and my mom was that, and she did not hesitate to fulfill it and to see it through. And that the success is the acceptance of the roles between my two parents that have gotten us to this point today.
From what I understood, you used to play on the sound system or you owned the sound system, right?
So never truly dived into owning it too much. I think, when you think about the late 80s, early 90s, and you think of sound systems, you think of the growth of music. It was a perfect time where I was starting to realize the passion that I had for music, and then starting to figure out an entrepreneur mind. And we looked at the sounds that were around: King Turbo, Red Flame, Lone Star. And these were all relationships that I had with these successful sound crews. And at some point, we had a crew in high school. As we entered grade 9, we were trying to figure out what else could we add to our portfolio. And we were like, man, maybe we start a sound crew, and maybe we do something different. Maybe it doesn't have to sound aggressive. Maybe it doesn't have to sound, world changing. Maybe it could just be something sweet, something that represents us. We had a nice smile, and we like to, dress and um, portray ourselves accordingly. So we decided to go with a name called Colgate Crew. And it was one of those things where we loved the joy of it. We loved what the reaction was of it. We loved explaining it. But as you got into the business, you got to see how challenging, even when you have a passion, how to run a business was, which is now you got to start investigating in dub plates, and you got to start investigating in having the best sound equipment. And then you got to figure out who's going to be your key DJ and who's going to be the sound man, and so forth. So it's something that we never truly got off the ground. We did little things fun here and there. If we had YouTube back in the day, we would have probably did a couple of different ventures online, and did some different things, but it wasn't something we actually got to hone and get into. We did get into in a little bit of the party scene, where we did do promotions and did do some different things with different groups. One of them that I worked closely with was a group called Debonair Entertainment, which has actually been revised from the time we were 16. And the person that was running the parties at that time is now been taken over by someone else in our group, but is now ran more as a corporate event um, business. So it's something where we've always had a close knit group of guys that were pretty close, and we're always looking for different ventures and different things to participate in. And I would say that was one of the ones that we did there early in high school.
Real quick, right, for some history. So when people were cutting dubs in Canada, were they doing Canadian artists or you doing Jamaican artists?
You're always having to try to get Jamaican artists.
That's
Unfortunately, in
crazy.
Canada, yeah, in Canada, we always are looking to go elsewhere at first. I think we do a better job today supporting our own and bringing our own along, and educating and showing them how to be better. But let's be honest. In that time, it was trying to get the big names as we know them as of today, trying to be the ones calling out our name.
You were able to leave Canada and go to a Juco school before you went to Lewis University, right? Have to ask you a question about Juco school. I played at a school uh, basketball at Loyola in Baltimore, right? And I found that Juco players are like the hardest players to play against. Well, did you experience that? I don't know if it's the chip on the shoulder fire. Like I noticed the dudes that were in JUCO, they were very hard to play against.
So we have to remember that sometimes life is about organization, it's about research, it's about doing your homework. And unfortunately, we're not always given the necessary tools for us to be successful. So the JUCO, unfortunately, especially for people of culture, is somewhere to go get organized. It's somewhere where your paperwork can get submitted and you can get into the U.S. and you can get a scholarship. And then it's usually from there that you're going to end up going D1 and going sometimes even pro once you've established your training routine and your team of who's going to be around you to get you to a great point. So for me, that's exactly the boat I fell into. I decided to, leave the professional career, what I was going to do uh, in life, maybe as a store manager at McDonald's. And I went towards my athletic opportunity as someone presented it to me and said, listen, go run now. You can run a store when you're 40 years old. And they were so right. So I decided to go to school late. I had to get my paperwork in late, and that's why I ended up at a JUCO because that's where I could get accepted. That's where I could get some scholarship money. And to your point, you're 100% right. When I got to my JUCO, I went from being a 4x1 tail runner or even second leg runner, where those are the two fastest positions, to going to a team where they were like, you're on the C squad because everybody here is an Olympian running world record times. So you're going to have to earn your keep. And I ended up running with the likes of Kim Collins, who ended up being top 10 in Canada, Peter Gale, a Jamaican runner who ran high level for women. So you're completely right. It's an area that doesn't get recognized for the talent a lot of time because it doesn't get promoted the same way. But a lot of talent has come through our JUCO, and a lot of JUCO schools can compete with D1. They just don't get the exposure and the dollars.
So you went to a JUCO, you go to Lewis University, right? You ran 100 to 400. I heard you in a previous interview state you did not like the 400, but you became good at it, right? Now, for those listening, please explain that life lesson you learned from becoming good at the 400.
I think the first thing people have to realize is you can overthink everything in life, and even running can become something that's very simple but very complicated. And it has to do with confidence, it has to do with your mindset, it has to do with how you've trained and developed your body for it to perform. And for me, the 100 was a challenge because I was always a person that uh, overthought the shot of the gun. I wanted to react based on timing when all I need to do is react based on sound. So the 100 was not my favorite. And then the 400 was not my favorite because I then have to pace myself, knowing that it's still a pace at a high level. You're not really finding a way to say you're going a certain speed to then change it, but you do have to figure out how you're going to go all out without going all out because you got to be able to finish the race. And to me, it just became something when I was younger that I overthought it. And my coach kept it simple one time. He brought me to the side and said, Courtney, all you need to do is go out there, run straight, and turn left when you need to. And to me, that helped me, but it still was not a race that I preferred because it was just, I felt it was just hard on the body to go full out and run that fast. And I applaud people that do the 400 and the 800 because every other race you can kind of pace yourself and figure out your timing of it. But those two, you got to get after it and you got to go and you got to go hard. So my favorite race was the 200. Didn't have to think coming out of the blocks, and it was over by time um, I was starting to feel fatigue.
You go to Marshall University for graduate school. I take it there was a Canadian there or someone there you had a relationship with. They brought you in, right? Question I have, and this is all this man's life aligned for what you're doing because all these things are great preparation for what you're doing now. Um, I was a player once, right? And what I noticed is that especially players who are very good, they have a very hard time relating to other players because especially when you're at a certain bar, it's hard for you to relate. So you were coaching women out of all you were coaching women out of all things, right? How is that like you're coming back from a person who's kind of self-motivated? How is it coaching other players that maybe have, they fluctuate in their motivation or their intention with track?
Well, first, let's give a shout out to Frances Seeley for inviting me out to Marshall University, as she was um, the lead sprint coach and was running the program there mainly on the girls' side. So thank you to her for that opportunity. I think that's a great example where a Canadian was looking out for another Canadian and gave me an opportunity. Um, and it was a great opportunity, as you said. It was a challenge to go in knowing that the men's program had been pulled based on Title IX. And for me, it was a great opportunity because, again, I've been raised by my mother, who had raised me to see people as equal and to know the strength of people is based on the person and their heart, not necessarily how you see them or how you perceive them. So for me, it was a great opportunity to go challenge um, individuals to become the best that they could become. And it had nothing to do with them being male or female. I think you learn patience on understanding how you may have to educate sometimes more with a different group of people. I think sometimes there is a um, opinion of men are aggressive in something that they're passionate about and might go all out and might um, not take a break. And I think sometimes with women, it may be seen different. I think it's just confidence. I think women can have the same approach. I think it takes time to educate them on what these opportunities actually can become. Because the reality is they may not see themselves as much as males see themselves in a certain sport or in a certain topic of believing that they can become that next person. So for me, it's really about just building the confidence and then learning on sharing what it is you did as an athlete. Listen, it is definitely one thing to motivate yourself. It's definitely something to motivate others. And I think that's a great challenge because it still comes down to you. You still have to be motivated to motivate others. If you're not motivated, then you can't motivate anyone. You've got to love yourself to love someone else. So for me, it was a great opportunity to one, go train and teach the game and that I ran and had to learn a lot for myself. Um, but I think at some point the everyday practice becomes a unity that everybody realizes that they're there for the reasons that they need to be successful and for the school to be successful. And we had some great buy-in and we had some great success.
It's this repetition of going in unknown places and excelling. You go to JUCO, you go to school, you're coaching. The question I have for you is that how did you like that's the part I can understand. Like, how did you start refereeing basketball games and working basketball camp? It's like, how did you
So
even get into that basketball realm?
I think when you get to a part of life and you've seen things that you know you want to experience at a high level, you accept that you have to go build up in another area of your portfolio to match what it is you want your passions to be. So for me, I've always wanted to be in business. And then through sports, I've realized sports can be a business. So for me, I've had the education, I've had the business background. I needed to build my basketball IQ. I needed to build my basketball network. I needed to build my basketball connections. And for me, I didn't want to go work a 9 to 5 job, let's say being a sound crew, and then trying to do basketball on the side, right? Because at that point, you're not going to get the same connection based on the amount of time you're doing something else that's totally not basketball. So I decided I was going to come back and do nothing but basketball to really figure out the passion and love that I had for it. And then to really figure out who the movers and shakers were within the sport and to see if I had anything to offer them to help propel this game to where it is today. And I saw the future of basketball being great. I saw it being unlimited. I saw it not being close to the peak. I saw the opportunity of where a G League team would come in. I saw an opportunity where a WNBA team would be coming in. So I said, let's go be humble and let's go learn at every level possible so that you can truly, attack this thing with a basketball mind. Because I was a track guy. I was a retail manager. I was a fast food manager. I had these experiences, but there wasn't enough basketball. So I went and refed, I went and did stats, I went and coached, I did everything that I could. I went and did community events around basketball. So that way I could, meet as many people as I could and learn as much as I could.
When a lot of times people watch professional sports, they just focus on the coaches and players, right? They don't focus on what goes on behind the scenes. The question I have for you is that how difficult is it for the front office and coaches to keep players motivated to perform at optimal levels consistently? Keyword consistently.
I think you touched on it first. I think the business of sport is so complex because there are so many different departments. And I think when we think about a front office, the reason we've had success here at the Raptors and 905 and even MLSE is we're all one. And we found a way to make sure that our objectives and our goals are all aligned so that everybody could be on the same page. It is extremely hard when your GM and your head coach may not see eye to eye. It may be extremely hard when the front office and those other two departments are not aligned, because at some point for us to win we need to all realize the challenges that's ahead of us and how we're going to overcome that. So for me, starting as an intern, it was a great opportunity to see as much as the business on the ground level that I could, to see where things needed to be maybe a bit tightened and we needed to be a bit more connected. And I took pride in trying to be that glue. I took pride in learning on how to maybe communicate better so that we could get the medical team and the other side of the team to figure out how those two departments need to come better together so that the players could see the improvement on the court and could see the improvement off the court. And those are the examples where sometimes everyone thinks the on-court performance is everything, but there's huge off-court responsibilities that need to be obtained and need to be met, and it has to be a clear vision to the players, to the staff, on how we're going to get there. So for me, it's been a great ride of learning along the way, having different ways of impacting. And now I'm in a position to leading our G League team, to giving influence to our players, giving influence to our staff, building great partnerships in our community, working with the city of Mississauga, and growing the business in the corporate sector. So for me, it's been something where I've always had love working in all the different departments, but yet connecting them all together so that we all are winning in different facets, not just W's and L's, for wins and losses, but for some different KPIs and for some personal, different objectives. How do we make sure that we're winning each day, winning each week, winning each month, to then eventually win the championship?
Dealing with the G League now, please answer this. You have a diverse group of people who come to the G League. You have people who are in the NBA who are moved down. You have people from overseas who are coming over. You have people who are initially going into the G League, right? How do you keep a player who's been in the league, who's been put in the G League, to keep him focused, motivated, and positive, also so he doesn't become toxic to the team culture in the locker room?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge to bring different players from different aspects of where they are in their life. They could be established, but yet coming back from injury. They could be brand new to the game on a professional level. They could have earned their stripes overseas and making their way back to the U.S. because they've improved on certain different skill sets. But it's like anything. It's like anything that we've talked about so far in this journey. It's making sure you sit down with individuals and find out their goals, tell them your goals as a team, tell them who they're going to be paired with as teammates and as a front office, and who's going to be part of our group to bring them along. And it just takes a lot of communication, and you got to be as transparent as you can as well. Sometimes the truth of the matter is you might not be as good as you are, but here's what we think you are good at, and here's how you're going to excel, but here's how the team's going to excel. And it takes some really hard conversations, some uncomfortable conversations, to become comfortable. And we have done that at a high level. We've taken players who are undrafted and challenged them on what they need to work on to become all stars. We've taken players who have been in different scenarios and showed them that you're trying to do it only your way, and you need to do it more of a team way. And we've taken that opportunity and won there as well. So the challenge and the fun challenge is there's always a new day at the G League. There's always a new player, and they want just as much attention that you've given any other player in the past. And that's the energy and the love that I have for it, is because they now want what you've maybe proven already or what you've done with someone else, but how you continue to do that and how you plan to continue to do it for them. So for us, you got to make sure you build a staff that is ready to teach, ready to educate, ready to inspire, and continue to do that on and off the court every day.
With your experience, you dealt with a lot of player development and other aspects, right? Question I have for you now, putting on your GM hat. Talent or someone who's good for the culture of the team?
It's a combination of the two. I think to your point, you've got some guys that have very good skill set and they may not have the character, but I think you can interview them and you can find out if they're willing to work on it and if they're willing to humble themselves to get to a position of learning. And then it's vice versa. You have some people that are great character and their skill set needs to develop, and you can also build that. So for us, it's the research, it's the scouting, it's the conversation, it's the intel, it's the growth. We all develop in different ways. Some are faster than others, but we always have different ways of tracking information. Analytics is a huge impact nowadays on just where guys are based on how they're growing, how they're developing, how their speed has improved or not improved, but how they still have impacts in the game. This game is not judged by the size of a person anymore. It's not judged on just the athletic ability of the person anymore. It's the combination of how those skills can be integrated into the system that's being run. So there's a lot of plug and play. There's a lot of puzzle pieces that need to be put together. But you have to be able to see talent before it shows itself. But you also have to be able to take talent and maximize it. And then you also have to take talent and humble it and tell it that you're trying to do too much sometimes and you need to just focus on key areas. So there's a few things where we take on great challenges of trying to figure all of that out, and we've got a great staff that allows us to do that without feeling overwhelmed or feeling that we're trying to do too much because we may not have the resources.
All right. So you've been at the pinnacle in your industry, right? You were with the Raptors when they won the NBA championship. How tight, you mentioned it before, but delve a little deeper. How tight does things have to be behind the scenes for an organization to win a championship?
The team that wins is the tightest team. At the end of the day, once we won the championship, you eventually go to sleep at some point. It seemed like you don't, because you feel like you're up forever after that win, because you're just trying to embrace it and talk to as many people about reaching a pinnacle level of life that you inspired from a young age, even as an older age. Different dreams come at different times. So for us, when I reflect on it, you look back at all the times when you had a chance to quit, you had a chance to not believe, and those are the times when you realize, man, we pushed through. And if you didn't, then you're not here. And there's unfortunately just teams that they just don't believe entirely, or they don't believe right through the end. Um, the saying I like to use is, we didn't mess up. That's why we won a championship. And mess up means we went through adversity, but we took it on and we challenged to get it better. And we didn't accept it as a reason to not be successful. And unfortunately, a lot of times you go through the season, and I share this with everybody, especially our culture, where Iman had no, I'm not a materialistic person. Iman did not care to see a championship trophy to kiss it. That was something that I used to see and be like, yo, fire for that lightning, right? But at some point, you start to realize that when you look at this trophy now, it represents all of what you had to fight through to get to this point. And that's why people end up kissing it, because
Facts.
nothing else matters when you've put in all your hard work and you now get to hold it, um, and get to see the shine of your confidence and your beauty of what it is that you do to impact this game and to impact your business and to impact your team. So for me, it's very instrumental for people to realize that the journey has things along the way that are not always positive and not always heartwarming and not always the way you envisioned. But it's when you get through those to get to where you're going that you'll really celebrate the things that you've overcome or the way you've kept it tight when there was times that other people would break it up and make it not successful. So for us, we've had it in 2017 when we won a G League championship. We were able to build that squad to be at the pinnacle, and that squad impacts our 2019 squad. Them winning set the example of what winning was. And that's an example of where people say, oh, what's the G League? G League was our foundation. G League was our belief. We got the team for a reason. We invested in it, and it turned around and paid us back by winning early and then helping us win. And now we got to continue to grow that challenge of getting back to the um, highest level possible to win another championship on both levels.
Mental health has been a significant issue for athletes, right? I'm pretty sure you have your mental health stories also. And organizations seem to be doing more to provide support, right? Can you share some of the mental health resources and support that the Toronto Raptors offer their players?
First, mental health is very important. As an athlete, you definitely understand it when you are asking your mind and your body to do things at a high level. And it definitely can be straining if you don't have the right nutrition, right resources, and the right support system. So, mental health is very important. Second, mental health has become even more important because we are all, as individuals, are coming from different cultures and different backgrounds and different situations. Our environment is not the same. We've got different people from different countries that don't know the game the same way someone else was taught the game. So for us, there's communication that has to be um, fixed and built to be successful by helping people with the language that's going to be common for the group, which on our side is obviously going to be English, and not everybody is an English first speaking person. People have dialects, people have different things on how they pronounce, how they hear things. So for us, mental health was making sure that we took time to be patient, to understand people's growth and to understand how people learn. And that was the key part of our education. Mental health was going to be the way that we adapted to realizing people learn differently and how we have to portray ourselves to teach and to preach and to show examples of how we were going to work together to get to the same goals and objectives. And then we do different things by challenging the NBA and the G League to provide some of these resources. We challenge the Players Association to provide some of these resources. And then the team turns around and also provides some of these resources. We spend endless time with the players to teach them, but we spend endless time with the agents and teaching them on how they also need to hold their players accountable and understanding how to deal with mental health, physical health, family health. Um, Family can be a big strain on someone mentally when they might be the caregiver, the provider, the person that is maybe doing something at the highest level that the family has never seen before. And as much as that's a positive, that can also be something that is strenuous to them because they may take it on their shoulders that they have to now provide for everyone and for their family. So for us, it's always been important for us to make sure we've got resources for the players internally and externally because guys need to understand that they can trust us, but maybe they need to trust somebody that's not affiliated with us as well.
You brought up two great points, and I have two questions, right? If you don't want to answer, feel free. First question: I don't believe professional athletes should get married.
Very interesting. Professional athletes should not get married. I think if you look at someone like Travis Hunter, just to give you a different sport perspective and a different path, he gives a lot of credit to his significant other. And I can honestly tell you, in the position that I sit today, a support system is very important in life. And I don't think you can classify how it comes. Sometimes it comes through religion, sometimes it comes through your parents, sometimes it comes through your significant other who can be your girlfriend, your wife, whatever it is that you want to classify them as. It could be a best friend. It also can come through a stranger. Some people can come into your life that you didn't expect, you didn't know, and they can be just as impactful. So for me, understanding that you can't do this alone is the first part. The next part is understanding what you want out of life. I think people don't understand what marriage is and they confuse that. And that's like anything in life. If you go get life insurance and don't understand the difference between whole and term, You can't say insurance is bad for you. If you do anything, you buy a car, you want a sports car, you want a family car, you can't go in and say a vehicle is not right for you. You have to understand it, you have to research it, you have to ask a ton of questions. We as a culture are not very honest about what marriage means to us individually. And I think that's an area of growth on understanding, is it religious? Is it a support system? Is it to have children? Is it to combine two incomes so that you are not alone? We have to be more honest about what it means to us and how we get there. So for me, I would challenge your perspective, because I think sometimes, I think Barb's Cartel said it the other day. Sometimes you need to sit down and lock in with one woman to have focus and to have,
No, very,
a direction.
very, very, very true. And the reason I bring it up is that everyone this is what I do. I interview people who are at the top of their game, and I experienced this firsthand in my own life. And then what I notice is that the commitment that's needed to excel at a particular thing, there's a certain level of selfishness that's needed, and it doesn't go too well with relationships. Now, I do agree in regards to that support system, having a lady in your life if she has that understanding. But when we try to play marriage and family becomes an issue because you're not able to provide what's needed for it to be functional. I'm pretty sure you saw this firsthand. I don't think people understand the commitment these players have to their craft to perform on a daily basis.
It,
That's
but
that's why I
but
say that's why I say the family thing's tricky, you know?
but it's any craft.
Yeah.
It's any craft. The research you've done to interview me, if you don't have somebody at home that's allowing you to go do that research and allowing you to go make your connections to get your intel, it's all the same. That person has to support and almost come to you and say, "Yo, I found this on Courtney too. How can I help?"
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with just the topic. I think what ends up happening, to your point, is when you're in a position where people are able to see you and know you more and there are more distractions, you then have to have even more of a sit down with
Yeah.
your significant other to make sure they understand how your kindness can be taken for weakness sometimes, right? If I now go and take a picture with somebody that's a female because they love basketball and I've inspired them, I don't need someone that when I come home thinks I was taking a picture with a
Stressing you out.
woman that I have interest with, right?
Facts, facts,
So
facts, facts.
I think what you and I are doing right now, couples need to do more. Sometimes you need to sit down and say, listen, this is not a this is a deciding moment for us, and I'm going to interview you,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask you about your background. I'm going to ask you, were you raised by a mother and father, and how did that impact you? I'm going to ask you, where have you gone to school, and how's that environment changed you? And I think what we do sometimes is we avoid those situations because sometimes maybe we don't want to know the answer. They want to find out that I like soca before I like dancehall, right? Whatever it is. So we have to eventually realize, man, we've got to go ask these things that we don't want to know the truth from. And sometimes it has to do with how we want to live. Like you said, there's an expectation, right? When I'm trying to do all of what I've done in life, if you kindly, rehash and always remind me when I do these experiences, is I don't know if everybody's ready for that journey.
Yeah.
Not everybody's ready for me to leave Canada, go to the US, and still be in a relationship. Not everybody's ready to go to West Virginia for almost 2 years to maybe live. So you have to sit down with these people and let them know, I don't know where basketball is going to take me, but it might take me globally. And if you're not willing to travel globally, then unfortunately, this is not the right relationship for us. And I may have to go find me a global traveler, a global supporter, someone that's ready to keep moving and shaking. And I can honestly say I'm in a great position now where I can honestly say it's rewarding when you do have someone that can almost support you or even help you see your vision even more than you see it yourself.
The outside world doesn't understand the family pressure athletes receive from their own family and unrealistic expectations and demands, specifically financially. I'm not asking you to share any horror stories you witnessed, but when people watch the game, they hear all these stories about finances, this and that, and like they don't understand, like they don't put themselves in a position, right? I'm here, I'm playing, I'm in the NBA. My salary is public information. I have these family members that I grew up with that felt obligated. And there's a key aspect we don't speak about. When you purchase these things for these family members, they're not in a position to maintain them. So if you get a mortgage for a person, or get a house, you have to deal with everything that goes wrong in the house. And I think that's some of the financial strains players run into.
Again, communication, man. I hate to sound like I'm just repeating myself, but I think at some point
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of money made that if someone has to eventually challenge the people that they're working with on the educational piece, right? I, I
yeah,
I talk about life insurance a lot because a lot of us don't invest in it because we don't know the true strength
facts,
of it, and we don't realize the value of it when we're gone,
facts.
right? So for me, I might I might come into a couple of dollars and I might look at my grandma and say, "Listen, I'm going to invest in this life insurance for you." And she might look at me and say, "Well, I need bread and butter." And I'm saying, "Well, grandma, if you want a better, healthier family,
Yeah,
your life has to have some value.
facts.
And if I can invest in this and we can leave more than bread and butter, we have to take that in consideration." But again, it goes right back to what you said. Some people don't want to hear what's better. They want to hear what they want, or they want to hear what they think is needed at the time. And we personally, in our culture, as a black man, I know we don't communicate the best, and we don't communicate to ignite, and we don't communicate in this. Your platform has a huge following, and that's because people believe in what it is you guys are sharing. They
Yeah,
believe on how you're educating it. They believe on how you research. And what we have to do is we have to continue to get people to believe that they have to also share more so that people have more of a source to go get information from so that they can build the confidence to take themselves out of the position they're in. I'm not in a position because anybody gave me anything.
facts.
I'm in a position because I set a goal to go achieve it. And even when you're trying to achieve it, people still don't believe you can achieve it.
No, serious thing, serious thing.
So, a lot of times in life, you never want to walk around and tell somebody, "I told you so." But you eventually have to tell them, "I'm telling you how to be better, and it's up to you if you want to follow me." There's not many things in life that I regret. I feel like I've lived my life as much as I wanted to live it. But the one thing I would do is I would challenge people if I could go back, to my sound crew day when I was thinking about maybe starting a crew, was bringing more people on when I made the shift or when I made a change in life and when I made a new challenge to achieve. I wish I had shared more of how hard it was, but what the success could be if I accomplished it. And I should have
Facts.
brought more people. I told some people, stop playing basketball, come run track and get you a
Yeah,
scholarship. And some
yeah,
people did.
yeah.
There are people that can honestly say Courtney changed my life because he changed my direction by showing me my talent was more suited for something else. But unfortunately, I didn't really go tell everybody. I really
Yeah.
didn't broadcast it. And it's not broadcasting as if I know everything or I'm the one to follow, but I should have did a better job of making sure people were looking at themselves, evaluating themselves to truly figure out what they were truly good at, what they truly had a passion for, and what they truly could see the long term being if they invested today. And I do that today now. I try to jump on here to share with people because of the amount of viewers and how many people are listening to you. This is now my time to make sure I let them know. Bring people with you. That way, you don't have to pay them when you make it. They are making it as well. And they are hopefully bringing people and they're making it as well. And we now have more people making it instead of just one.
Consistently throughout your life, you set the bar very high. You consistently dream big, and you created systems. And I'm very uh careful with my words when I say this because I'm not. You've created a system that heightens the probability of achieving your goals. I think that's all we can do, fire. We just try to heighten the probability. Nothing's guaranteed, right? How important is it for someone to have a system in place to achieve their aspirations?
It's very important. You have to know where you're trying to go and you have to be honest about it and you have to build upon it. I use the example every time when we were in the playoffs in the championship year, we lost the first two games to Milwaukee. and the reporters asked Kawhi, "Where do we go from here?" And Kawhi, in his demeanor, answered, "Back to Toronto." Because why are we overthinking this? We lost 2 games. It's a best of 7 series. We go back to Toronto. We have 2 home games. If we win those 2 games, the series is tied 2-2. But you have to know what it is that you have ahead of you. You have to know what the environment is that you're putting yourself into. And for me, you have to have a system. You have to have a trust system. You have to have a system that helps you critique where you currently are and how you're doing and how you're performing. You have to have an investment piece that you know you've put in time and effort. You can't just show up and think it's going to happen. You've got to be putting in the work, and work comes in different forms, physically, mentally, and with the research. So for me, it's been very important to have good people around me. Positivity has been huge. Having people that dream big. We all sometimes can get to a point where we only think we're capable of doing something, but you got to go get more people that think bigger and think there's more to life, there's more to basketball, there's more to business, there's more to this journey. And you got to continue to put those people around you to ignite those fires when they sometimes go low and almost sometimes even go out. Because it takes a team, a village, it takes a group of people, like minded and unlike minded. Unlike minded people are just as encouraging as much as you may think they're negative. They are sometimes challenging you to see it even more when they might tell you they don't see it at all.
How do I say this? The article was breaking down the decline of viewership of the NBA, right? You're in a different market though, even though you're in Toronto, and I know you deal with marketing in all aspects of what you do. Um, One, do you think this is true? And if it is true, why do you think this is what is the cause of it?
So if we just go back to just anything in life, viewership is going to be based on, how many people are watching and for how long and for, what period of time and who are the teams that they're following and different things of that sort. I think we do realize that we're in a generation where people do not watch things at the same length of time like they used to. And then it becomes a very niche market if they do, right? So like anything, Marvel is something where movies could be 3 hours long. Not everybody wants to watch a 3 hour movie. It can be great, but they want to go do something else within that time. So I think you just have to adapt. I think you have to find a way to keep your market increased and keep the viewership. I think you got to realize viewership is one thing, and then the amount of people that follow the sport is also another thing. There's more people participating in the game today than there used to be. So we have to find a way to understand which are the analytics that are the ones that we need to focus on, and how do we keep them at a level that makes sense to us. We still have people coming to games, so that viewership is great, but we have to find ways on how they're watching it when they're not at an arena. And the league does a great job of that. The G League, I think, is a great opportunity for where people that don't necessarily have the opportunity to go to a Raptor game, they have a price point that they can come to a G League game. But how do they maybe listen to a G League game if they're not able to watch it on TV? Can they listen to it on radio? Or how do people get to realize that this is a level for them to watch to learn more? You got basketball teams that maybe the game is too fast on the NBA level. So we just got to do a better job of educating people on why they watch what they watch. If you look at the NCAA, it's changing, right?
Big
It's
time.
changing. It's becoming a bit more professional in a way where it looks like billionaires might be buying into sport teams at the NCAA level. NIL is taking
Facts.
over, and that's changing how scholarships are changed. So to me, viewership is always going to be something that is going with the times, and it's always going to be looked at how it's being done differently. Um, but for us, I think we're in a great place. We just got to make sure we find a way to keep people watching and learning the way they want to.
Yeah, it's very rough, man. Because I have this conversation a lot with people in the music industry and other aspects of entertainment. The attention span is non-existent across the board. And I think one of the issues now, people are so addicted to watching short form. So like instead of watching the game, they'll just watch the highlights. The problem is when I watch the highlights on my phone, I get a ding from social media, I get a text message. So I'm not just sitting chilling watching the game anymore. So I think it's just a weird time. It's just a very weird time, and everyone's trying to figure it out.
I watched Buju do an interview, and he touched on it. There was a time when he made a record,
Facts. Yeah,
and
you
the
say you don't
record
pay
was in
me.
his hand, and he
Yeah,
could go sell that record when he wanted. Now it's in the cloud.
facts.
He has no idea where it is. He has no almost rights to it because he can't even go get it to go give it to somebody to listen to or to sell. He's got to
On the internet.
hear it
Yeah,
himself, right? So to me, that's an example where viewership has changed. It
yeah, big
hasn't
time.
changed necessarily to be less. It's just changed on maybe the way we understood it and the way we liked it or the way it maybe made sense for dollars. We have to adapt and we have to figure out, and we have to maybe sometimes go back and own what it is because we've looked at the avenue of where maybe it makes sense and it maybe makes some money, but maybe it's not the right one. And at some
Yeah,
point, um, youth are starting to realize YouTube was popular because it had less commercial and less breaks in between. It's
facts.
become just like cable now, where every few minutes there's an ad. And you know what they tell you?
Facts.
You got to pay into that ad to not watch the ad. Well, then what's the difference between cable TV?
Facts.
There's no difference, but you can have it on your phone, right? And that's what we have to realize is what's happening is people are moving more and they want to be updated more and they don't feel like they have time for more, but maybe they're also trying to follow too much. Just like I said before, I wanted to be part of a sound crew. I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a track athlete. At some point, I got to pick one and be really good at it.
Yeah.
I I did the track thing. I took it as far as I felt it could take me. Now I do the basketball thing and I try to take it as far as I can take. It takes me, but you know what I try to do? I try to bring music in where I can because music is part of our sport. It's part of our business. So now I have the best of both worlds. Running, I still try to talk to my players about running. You know how many 7 footers can't run? They can't run, right? So my track mind starts to kick in. You know what? We might have to go get a sprint coach for this guy. He's running in a way that's not effective. He's running in a
Yeah.
way that's not being efficient. So we have to find a way to figure out what our passions are, what our skill sets are, and then those other things we can bring in. But I think the generation now today is trying to swipe and learn as much as they can, but they are not learning anything because everything's a short. They're only getting a snippet of it and then they're running with that opinion. And I don't know any young chef that has done that successfully. You got to
And
understand the root of the seasoning. You got to understand the time it takes to marinate that food. You got to understand that it's not a microwave that's going to get it to its full potential, right? So I think that's our job to educate people on yes, be quicker, be efficient, maximize, but also understand there's a reason for that slow cook. There's a reason for that slow brew.
so listen to you talk, right? And listen to your journey. You've been through generations, right? You've really experienced a shift in both technology and psychology. Now, I'm pretty sure I was in college from 2002 to 2006. One of my coaches was Jimmy Patsley. So you can look him up. One of the toughest coaches in the country, right? You can't talk to players now like you did 10 years ago or 15 years ago. How does that work with relaying a message while still keeping a standard of expectation?
You can't talk to kids the way you used to talk to kids anymore
Yeah.
because words have become as abusive, especially in our culture, as
Not
as
laughing. I want to be insensitive. I just listen. Yeah,
you have to, right? You have to um, be even more patient in understanding your environment, which I would say in our culture is something we don't do very well.
yeah,
Because if we feel we've earned the right, we've invested the time, we're going to go do what we want to do. But
yeah,
like you said, it's understanding your environment and understanding the change. I have to listen to my kids on where they are, where they're going, and what they want, as much as I think I know the path for them.
yeah,
It was me that challenged my mom on where I am today. She didn't believe, she didn't know, she didn't understand. So I had to challenge her. But I had to challenge her based on how she raised me, and I have to keep some of those same traits for my children and my athletes. I got to teach them some of the foundation. I have to teach them some of the patience. and I have to teach them some of the compounding to what success looks like long term. And you have to realize that it takes communication, it takes back and forth, it takes what we're doing today. Me hearing you and understanding some of your journeys, I try to make it more relatable to what you've just shared with having a coach that maybe disciplines you a certain way. That coach is going to be successful, but he'll be even more successful if he's willing to listen to how others want to be involved the way they want to be involved, because we have to bring them to a point for them to want to hear us. And again, I give credit to your platform because that's what your platform does. It brings people from all different genres, different uh, parts of life, Canadians to come speak to the American people. But I was part of the American culture. I was part of the American learning. I was a part of some of these same things. So we have to just do our due diligence to continue to do the research to find examples of where people are going to be willing to listen, because they will listen. They will open up to knowing a lot of the past. Listen, a lot of our movies are successful still today from the past. A lot of our music is successful from the past. There's a reason why Bob Marley is living strong. There's a reason why the Michael Jacksons live strong. There's a reason people paid tons of money to see Mike Tyson at 58 go to fight somebody of this new generation, because people know what talent is. People know what success is. You just have to sometimes take a little bit more time to educate them on it and show them what it was. And they'll see it, they'll believe it. And we have to continue to realize that they watch things differently today. Today, Jake Paul can be successful without having to do anything of substance. But this generation is okay with that because it makes them money and they've been told to make money. So we have to realize that. But then you just have to ask, what is your ethics? What are your morals? And if you're okay with it, then go enjoy it. It's a free world. And if you don't have to do a ton, don't do a ton, but still be great at it. Still be good at it.
How has social media impacted players' understanding of their ability? It seems like players have an inflated because now I'm from Jersey, right? We had a thing called Star Ledger. Fight, you had to get buckets to be in the Star Ledger to get your name in there, like, and obviously to get a scholarship. What I'm noticing now is this highlight reel in the social media now because it's all these views. Players are starting to kind of think they're better than what they are. How do you navigate that in a professional sport? I know it's there with the teenagers. I know it's there with the colleges. I take it it's there with the professionals. How do you keep them focused so they continue to work and pour into their craft so they develop and they don't get stagnant thinking that there's something that they're not?
You got to make sure you sit them down and find out what they truly want out of it and what is their end goal of it, right? You got 1 million followers. Are you trying to get 2 million, or are you just trying to entertain your 1 million? How are you going to grow that group? How are you going to educate them? How are you going to continue to build your brand? Um, you then have to look at what it is they're actually doing and what is the strength of that. How long will it live? We just talked about it. YJ, is that the young man right now that's popular doing some things? I'm pulling a
I'm
blank
not,
because I went to
yeah,
pull
I'm
his
not familiar.
name.
I apologize.
No, no worries. My youngins, my kids keep me up to date with some of these people that are making music that are just doing it at a level that they get a ton of viewership. But
Yeah,
I sometimes don't understand, like, what type of music is this and what is he talking about? And I'm not trying to call him out personally,
yeah,
but what I'm saying is he's successful. And I'm
facts.
proud of him. I'm proud that he's figured out his craft. I'm proud that but at some point I've had to like go research who this person is and what is he trying to do. And if he has a team, like you said, he has a system, he has to find a way to keep them engaged, because it may only be a time, it only may be a trend. Stores are not around forever that everybody
Facts.
went to, right? I can honestly tell people I worked at McDonald's, and I worked at McDonald's when I was young, and I worked at McDonald's thinking fast food will not make it in the future. There's no
Facts.
way people will continue to eat this type of food when there's healthier food and there's better education on what food to eat. McDonald's is top of top till today because their brand, because the business mind, because of their structure and their system. That doesn't make them right and it doesn't make them wrong. It just makes them a
Facts.
powerful entity that is being run on a great system. So for me, we have to realize that you don't have to agree with it to believe it. You just have to understand it, and you have to see where it's going, and then you have to apply yourself. Um, and I really challenge people to figure that out, because you can do anything in life. Trump has shown that.